Okay, good evening, everybody. And for those of you who are watching right now from YouTube, we will begin the live broadcast at 8:30. All right, just wait for a few minutes before we get started. Maya, later if you're not presenting, you may mute yourself and also off your webcam.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, one more, half a minute more. Okay, let me start the broadcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar brought to you by Kananga Investment Bank and managed by Wealthford. So today we are very excited because we are hosting the CEO of Aemulus Holdings Bhd to talk about their plan to penetrate the Chinese market. So welcome everybody to come to these sessions. If you are ready for Aemulus, all right, type ready in the chat box and let us know. All right, cool. All of you here are early and on time to know what, to learn what Aemulus has to offer to you. Now, before we begin, just want to run some survey because we want to know how deep your understanding about the ATE market, automated testing equipment market. Now, if you feel that you are familiar with what ATE is, okay, type 1. Okay, if you're familiar, you type 1. But if you're not familiar what automated testing equipment are, then you type 2. Okay, if you are not familiar, you type 2. If you're familiar, you type 1.
I see 1.5. Huh?
Wow, 3 years ago. Okay. I think many 2.
Okay. Sure.
Don't worry. Our CEO today will share with you what does Aemulus do and how they can, what kind of value they bring to the semiconductor market. All right, so welcome everybody to this session brought to you by Kentrade. So today we'll be interviewing. Okay, in fact, we want to make it like a live conversation with Mr. Sang Beng, who is the CEO of Aemulus Holdings Bhd. So today, this session, the topic is filling war chests to penetrate the Chinese market. Okay. Now, as you know, the 5G technology has propelled the boom of many technology companies, and so that creates a greater demand, and the demand is enormous for the semiconductor companies. And with this, right, comes the rise of a lot of semiconductor suppliers, and one of them, of course, is the supply in the area of automated testing equipment to test the functionality and also the burn-in test of these semiconductors. Today, we have one of the emerging, companies in the ATE market, which is Aemulus Holdings Bhd, to come and share with you about their company background, their second quarter financial result, as well as their plan to penetrate the Chinese market. Now, as you know, the China market is growing by leaps and bounds as they want to be self-reliant under the Make in China 2025 master plan. And today, we're going to learn how Aemulus can tap into this opportunity. Now, as usual, disclaimer, so whatever I'm sharing with this in this webinar is only for educational purpose. So in no way that I give any recommendation to buy or sell any company. Okay, so whatever we discuss here is only for educational purpose. So if you decide to invest in any company, you're 100% responsible for all your financial investment decisions. All right. Now, allow me to introduce our guest today, who is Mr. Sang Beng. Of course, he founded Aemulus Holdings Bhd when he was in his 20s plus. In 20s, he started Aemulus Holdings Bhd, and in late 30s, he finally listed the company on the AIS market of Bursa Malaysia. So without further ado, let's invite the founder and also executive director, come the chief executive officer of Aemulus Holdings Bhd to our session today. Okay, welcome, Mr. Ng.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Kenanga, Kentrade. So while I'm speaking, Mike, our finance manager, can you actually share the screen? So today, I think because a few things that I would like to just share with you all at this point of time is that when we talk about financial data, sharing financial data of Q2, our fiscal year end actually starts, fiscal year actually starts in October every year. So which means that our Q2 is actually ending March. As we know that yesterday, June, is actually our third quarter. So because we haven't made any announcements, so I'm not able to actually share with you what has just happened like yesterday. But we will have to wait until we make our announcement. In the meantime, I just want to make this a bit more casual and to share with you that what Aemulus is all about, because we have a lot of tools, that you may not understand what ATE is. So I will go through this a bit to talk a bit about technology a little bit, and then to talk about this market, what we are, where we are, and what we do, and what is the specialty of Aemulus. And of course, this session is all about Aemulus, and we will definitely try to actually show you that the value and the technology advantage that Aemulus has. Yeah, I mean, thank you. I mean, I started the first business at the age of 12, selling name cards and making my first 50 ringgit within 3 months. So that was what I did. At the age of 27, I started Aemulus, founded Aemulus after working for about 5 years in Altera. So that was sort of like my background. And over the years, we got listed, ups and downs. And I am very proud to say that since a year ago, we have actually making very good progress, which I'm going to share with you. We have been making, profitability, a growing profitability for the past few quarters, which I'll also share with you. And I want to share with you that something that we think that is actually very special about us because of how deep we have started and we managed to get into China right before the MCO 1.0. I'm talking about MCO 1.0. So we got everything there, set up, ready. We signed a deal during the MCO, and China has been contributing revenue to us, to Aemulus Holdings, while I'm not able to travel at all, for the past year. So this is the thing that I would like to share with you, that how we actually did it. Here, we have my actually finance manager, Mike Ong, to actually help me to flip the slides. Let's go to the next one. So we started in the year 2004 with 6 engineers, mainly from Altera. We started, and then took us about 11 years to get IPO. And then for that 11 years, our CAGR in terms of revenue was around 60 to 70% every year for 11 years. And then after that, in 2017, we set up an office in Hsinchu. We tried to get into the Taiwan market. Took us a while to deliver some results. In 2020, last year, against all odds, MCO, lockdown, you name it, we managed to get our new building. It's a green building that we built, and the land belongs to us. We built this. We completed, we moved in and started operation within a month after we moved in. At the same time, in the October, just last year, we together with a China counterpart, we actually had a JV with the name of Tangren or TMSS in China. And in 2021, this year, we expect that in Jiashan, our counterpart's factory will be able to be completed so that all of us could actually, those in China, TMSS would be able to operate in this new factory. All right, next. Then the thing that we need to look at is that these 4 categories of area that we are in. We are definitely in the mobile tablets markets. RF is our bread and butter. When I talk about RF, it means radio frequency. So before I really get into what RF is and what we actually do, I just want to quickly go through this. So basically, when you use phones, wearables, your Bluetooth earphones, anything Bluetooth, NFC, GPS, anything that's wireless, basically involves the chips that our testers are used to test. That's number 1. Number 2, we go into enterprise storage. We are right now in terms, hard disk drive, those mechanical hard disk drive. Yeah, you may think that it's obsolete. No one's using it anymore. Most likely you're right. You're true. That's true, because that nowadays all these high-speed, higher-end enterprise storage, as in the mechanical hard disk, are no longer appear in normal PC or laptops. In fact, they are all in the cloud storage. They're all in the enterprise storage, in the sense that, when you have Google Drive, you have iCloud, you have all this, all this cloud storage that you have. Do you actually know that most of it, 99% of actually the data that you store in the cloud is actually being stored in mechanical hard disk. Only 1% of it is being stored in SSD, because the statistics shows that we only access less than 1% of our data on a daily basis. So those that are not being accessed day by day, they store it in the enterprise storage. And we actually have a specific testers that is actually to qualify a very special chip inside this enterprise storage. And right now, we have almost 90% of market share worldwide, which means that 9 out of 10 hard disks that's being shipped, inside this hard disk, there's actually one chip, and the most important chip that's actually being tested by Aemulus testers, 9 out of 10. So it's a big deal, yes. And the next thing that we do is that in automotive industry, we are actually it's actually contributing quite a significant revenue to us, although we don't actually highly promote that area. Some of you may know D&O, a very good and great company. We are actually supplying testers to them to qualify their LEDs and the latest LEDs that they design. So these are some of the things that we do. And then, of course, IoT devices are things that mostly on anything that you have a microcontroller, you have a small processor, plus anything that's wireless, we all lump them under IoT. So these are the 4 areas that Aemulus is participating right now. Can we go to the next one? So here, I'm going to just introduce you 3 different testers, 3 different products that we have. Although we have a few more than this, but for today, for everyone's easy to absorb kind of thing, if Can Trade Shane, Jason are willing to invite me again next time, I can share a bit more about other products. But today, I would like you all to bear with me that you need to remember three numbers, all right? Three numbers. The first number that you need to remember is actually 7600, 7600. This is basically a 5G RF tester. RF stands for radio frequency, all right? Radio frequencies are the frequency that we use the most. If you look at your Wi-Fi, you always see the words like 2.4 gigahertz, 5.0 gigahertz. These are all the radio frequencies that we are operating at. All right, so we have a particular specific testers like this called 5G RF tester that is actually used to qualify the RF chips used in mostly in phones, tablets, and PCs, laptops. Okay, first number 7600, 5G RF tester. Next. So here, I would like to specifically talk about this RF filter tester, and the second number that you need to remember, or it will ease you to understand what Aemulus is all about, is to remember this second number, which is 7300. Previously was 7600. So 7300 is actually an RF filter tester. What is RF filters? Filters, your coffee filters, all sort of filters that you do. What it does is that it actually filters radio frequency signals. And why do we need this? One of the things that if some of you are old enough like me, that you had a phone that you can't use your phone in Malaysia, that you registered in Malaysia to operate in the US or in Japan. If you still have those type of memory like PCM, GSM kind of thing, that is because they are operating at a different bands or slightly different frequency from one to another. So which means that the frequency, a phone that's built to be operating in Malaysia will not be able to operate in different countries. So, but today, Samsung, Apple, Oppo, all this Huawei, all these phones have made it such that one phone for all, which means that you can have one single phone and you'll be able to operate in a very different countries. You can use the data plan in different countries. The reason is because that it's all because of RF filters. And I just want to share with you that there are just tons of RF filters in a phone. What it does is that when you get into different country, it will filter different bands of the frequency, or you will filter the signals that they want to your phone. Signals that it's not relevant, they will actually just let go. So this is how you could actually look at the meaning of an RF filter tester. So this is a blue ocean for Aemulus. Repeat on, this is a blue ocean for Aemulus. I'll explain to you why later, and I'll give you some figures. Mike. And the third one, previously I didn't talk about it, but then this is something called CIS. CIS stands for CMOS image sensor. To make it very straightforward for you to understand, it simply means that all the cameras that you have, phones, on iPad, laptops, computers, all this, or CCTVs, all this basically consists of CIS, CMOS image sensors. It's just a jargon in the industry that we call it as CIS. So this is actually one of our life savior since last year. I told you that we sort of have been doing quite well, growing for the last 1 year, and partly because we actually customized one of the testers and to make it to be specific to this industry. And this industry is huge, all right? This industry is huge. And when we move into this, suddenly we actually get into a very big market, and we are working on this. We hope to deliver some good news and things like that in the near future. And this is to do with CIS. But today I'm not going to talk too much about CIS. And this number is called 5600. So we have 7600, we have 7300, and we have 6600. So we have three different products, main products that contribute to our revenue. Mike, Mike, do you want to try this, explain to them that what happened?
Okay. Yeah. Before that, we have one participant asked, is there a reason you name it as amoeba?
Amoeba, right?
Yeah.
Very good question. And who is that?
Jeff.
Jeff. Right, Jeff. I think you are I like that you asked this question because amoeba, like we study science when we were in Form 1. When we were Form 1, we study the microorganism, single cell microorganism. One of it, paramecium and amoeba, if you remember.
Yeah.
And amoeba is actually a kind of bacteria. So we want to use the name because it's contagious. It goes everywhere. So we want our testers to be everywhere in the world.
Okay. Follow-up question is: Are these tester patented?
We have a couple of designs, not like the endowed testers. We have part of it that we are actually making patents right now, and we are going to patent it in China alone. But we have a lot of trade secrets in this. In this particular test, all these testers, right, in Aemulus, the specialty of it is that it is really not that easy to be copied. The reason being that we use a lot of FPGA, Altera, now part of Intel, Xilinx FPGA. This is a kind of chip that you can actually embed or you can actually encrypt your design into it that is very difficult to decrypt. So in a way, it's, we have a lot of trade secrets, but now we are starting to patent in China.
All right.
Thanks, Shane.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, can carry on.
Okay, let's have a quick flashback in regards to Q2 result, which was announced a couple of months ago. In terms of revenue, we generated near to 16 million in Q2, which is tremendous result for Aemulus, as it was our historical high for the past 17 years since the company incorporated. And if you compare quarter-to-quarter basis, it was 39% increment compared to Q1 results. And if you compare year-to-year basis, it was moving near to 500% increment. And in fact, we can't really compare the Q2 last year because, as you know, that China is having the full lockdown in January and February, and Malaysia had MCO in the month of June. Yeah, so we really can't compare the Q2 last year. And we should move on to the next slide. Revenue by regions. For your information, in Aemulus, we only split the region into China and the rest of the world. In Q2, China market contributed more than 50% of our revenue, and we have 127 increment from China market compared to Q1. I can call it a success if you look back to the previous audited results. You may see the revenue contributed from China is only merely like 10% in financial year 2019 and financial year 2020. Compared to the number generated in this financial year, it is very tremendous results and it's a success in terms of our JV strategies with the counterparty in China. Okay, we move on to the next slide. Revenue by products. 56% of our revenue is contributed by our RF products, which is AMB 7600 and 7600 and 7300. Both products were introduced by Sang Beng just now. And another product, which is CIS tester, contributed around 6% in our revenue this quarter.
Okay, Mike, maybe you get back to the previous slide. Let me just talk a little bit on this. So this actually, the reason that we highlighted this is because I just want to show you that the RF part contributed 56% of our revenue. And then 6% on CIS. If you all remember, it's if you remember, you can type in the chat board. So CIS basically contributed 6% only. But then we believe that it's going to grow, in the near future, and hopefully that it will give us a really significant contribution next year. But here I don't want to, because at the beginning we mentioned about D&O, we mentioned about automotive industry. Here, it's actually 12%. The yellow color, 12%, as in the Amoeba 4200 tester. So you can see that actually in the automotive industry, as in the testing the LEDs, it's actually 12% of our total revenue. So this is, aligned with the overall automotive industry worldwide, that this market is actually growing right now, and we are happy to be part of D&O's ecosystem. And the 17% green color that, as you could see here, is actually contributing from the cloud, the enterprise storage market. So, but this is something that we will not see that it's going to be contributing all the time, because we have already occupied almost 90% of the market. So just to let you know that at least 62% that you can see now is actually the part that we are going to grow in the future. Mike?
Mr. Ng, are you able to share what are the gross profit margins for each of the categories of your revenue?
We better don't do that. It gets very complicated. But then typically, if you want to just to get a rough idea, okay, we remember Mike mentioned that the revenue contribution is all between China and rest of the world. So the way that you could actually look at it is that China will always have a lower margin, right? It always has a lower margin, and we are looking at between 35 to 45% kind of margin, gross margin. It's typical, but because China is all about the volume game, right? Volume game. And then rest of the world, we have a much higher margin. We have probably between, Mike, is it like a 55 to 65% typical?
Okay.
Sorry, it's 50 to 70. Depends on.
Okay. Yeah. So averagely, we have, averagely our margin will, depending on the contribution of revenue by China, will be probably between 45 to 55%. So that's a typical margin that we have.
Okay, understand.
Thank you. Mike?
This regards to the revenue trend for the past 5 quarters. You may see the trend of our revenue for the past 5 quarters is growing steadily. What I can say is double-digit growth from 2.7 million up to 15.9 million this quarter. And we're expecting there's another growth for upcoming quarter as well. This profit trend for the past 5 quarters, you can see from the loss in last year, and it grew up steadily until profit 2.16 million in Q2 this year. So that's all for me. Sang Beng, pass to you.
Okay, let's get back to the profitability part. I think that we learn from our mistakes. We learn from our what we haven't been doing well in the past. From the lowest point of this 2.75 losses, and in Q3, which is right after it's actually Q3 last year. Last year was it's exactly a year ago. We knew that it was actually a very tough time, and what we did was that we get all the board of directors, all the senior management to have a 50% pay cut, and then we do a lot of cost cutting. We do a lot of things that whatever we need to make sure that we are profitable. Yes, I mean you may say that the profitability, despite small, it's due to the fact that we had cost cutting. But then I think I just want to say that it's really to do with the determination of the company, the determination of the management that is willing to sacrifice whatever it takes to make the company back on track. And since then, you could see that we have been steadily growing our profit. And we look forward that to the hard work, and we will strive to do better and better in the future. So after this number, I mean, now it's July 1st. We are going to make our announcement next month. Okay, it's about a month from now for last quarter, which is a Q3. So stay tuned. So Mike, let's get to a bit of what we are. So I know that you look at this, then you feel very complicated. Yes, it is actually complicated. And in fact, when it comes to E&E, which is electronics and electrical, you know that E&E industry is contributing to the largest export in the so-called, I mean, our export. And then in this particular area, the toughest part is actually on radio frequency, as compared to digital, analog, electrical signals that you see in electronics. The reason being that in radio frequency, it's actually something that you can't see, you can't tell. When you make a phone calls and you don't get the signals, most likely you'll blame Maxis, you'll blame Cellcom, you'll never blame your phone. The reason being that we will not be able to know whether the phone is actually working well or not. So that's the reason why radio frequency, it's the toughest thing under the sun. And I would like to bring you all back here is that you look at the left-hand side is when, like right now, right? When I talk, you typed, when we look at these images or when we put up an images, so all these things are in digital in nature, right? Digital in nature is on the left-hand side, the blue color one. So it gets through all these RF components. RF FEM is RF front-end module, right? RF front-end module. So it gets through all these RF components and it will actually send out through the antenna. And it will transmit to, to your home or to, to a base station that it gets to your home's internet, and it display on right now on your screen. So that is what it does. Without all these chips on the right, after the blue color bar, everything is on RF, is on radio frequency. And our job and in our 7600, 7300 testers are used to qualify all of these chips, right? So anything that you have RF, it's to do with us. Next one. And this is what I just want to share with you, that this is from Tech Insights, and this is actually it's actually a strip down. You strip off the Huawei phone, and you take this entire thing is called the RF front end module. It's called front end because it's actually connected to the antenna straight away, right away. And you can see that I highlighted here as in RF transceivers, RF power amplifiers, RF switches, RF filters, and stuff like that. So everything is start with RF because they are radio frequency, which means that in the most general way to understand, it's actually wireless. Anything that's wireless is to do with RF and is to do with us. And we are at the forefront of make sure that every phones, every tablets, every iPad or tabs that you have right now has been qualified by our tester. Okay, so red color, it's using 7600 Amoeba 7600 to qualify. The blue color ones are using 7300 Amoeba 7300 to qualify. Okay, next one. So this is actually trying to share with you that how big is this market? This is actually from Yo Research, a French company. It talks about everything under these two big circles. There are many subsets within this set. All the smaller circles with colorful circles within the dotted line circles, they are under the RFEN, which is the RF front end components. All right, they are all RF. And then we are looking at how they grow from 2019, which is not far from us. I mean, roughly 2 years ago, until 2025. We are looking at, okay, Mike, can you click once? So we are back one. So we are looking at 11%, compounded average from 2019 to 2025. And then if you look at Morgan Stanley in June last year, they actually published a research paper that shows that the growth of RF components. And as you can see, click once, Mike. So as you can see that if you look at the pie chart on the right hand side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 components, 5 colors. Back this. So we have a yellow, green, blue, orange, and blue. And okay, yellow, green, light blue, orange, and blue. If you could see that the yellow, green, light blue, and orange, 4 of them are being tested by the Amoeba 7600. And the blue color is actually being tested by 7300. And remember that I mentioned to you that this is actually a blue ocean, all right? This is actually a blue ocean thing, all right? And why is it blue ocean? Because all this while, before last year, before 2020, Aemulus has been testing the RF components, RF front-end devices, that is only the 55% of this entire pie, all right? It's only the 55% of the entire pie, meaning that we are testing a yellow color power amplifier, green color RF switches, the light blue color LNA, and also the antenna tuner and in the orange color. So we are 7600 testers is only testing these components. But then remember the trade war. So what happened to the trade war is that this is a very important thing that we need to understand why us, Aemulus, is important in this. We are at the center stage of the trade war. We are at the center stage of actually this Huawei 5G thing. Because one of the center of the trade war is actually to do with Huawei. And what is to do with Huawei? The center of Huawei is about 5G. Because 5G, the polar code proposed by Huawei has been adopted by the consortium of 5G, and making that Huawei actually has an upper hand as compared to other players in the world. So because of that, US thinks that they don't want this dominant to be actually given to Huawei. That is how all this partly reason that this trade war is actually happening. So we make a conclusion that the center of the trade war is Huawei, and the center of Huawei is 5G. And Aemulus is producing 5G tester. And what China is doing right now, what China is doing right now is they are being choked at the neck because a lot of the components that you may not know, like 2 years ago, how bad it was that you are not allowed. I mean, a PC in China was not allowed to be upgraded or being installed with Microsoft Windows, which means that your computers will not be able to be operated because there's no license to be sold. Because when at the highest point of the trade war, and the main reason is because it's about the technology that US and China has been blaming each other. And what China is trying to do is that all these RF filters, the blue color 45%, right? The blue color 45% RF filters has been dominated by the American companies and Japanese companies. Murata, Skyworks, Broadcom, these are all the companies that are basically dominating this entire industry. And the players in China, it's zero. So what it means is that, like I explained to you, that all phones needs these RF filters, and the technology is not something simple. And what China wanted to do is that they expedited the Made in China 2025, which I will elaborate a little bit more. It's very interesting, and it's really a very interesting thing that you may want to know. That China needs to design all these filters by themselves. I repeat, China wanted to design all these filters, be it ball filters, floor filters. They wanted to design all these filters by themselves and for themselves. And with Aemulus having a JV in China, the JV itself, TMSS, the name of the company, is basically now considered as a local Chinese entity. So because of that, it's being, we are actually in the ecosystem, the Made in China 2025 ecosystem. And we now stand as one of the very, very few suppliers, tester suppliers, who's able to actually test RF filters and being able to operate in China. So a lot of Americans are actually providing the testers in China right now. And you may guess, you may think, right? I mean, for them, it makes a lot of sense for them to actually not try their best not to use the American testers. And Aemulus testers, TMSS testers, it's all country of origin, Malaysia or China. So this is actually the blue ocean. It just started. And we think that this is, you look at it, it's actually 45% of the entire market. So, yep, this is our target. And this is what I believe that, we'll be able to do and excel. Shane, you agree?
Exciting. I think some of our participants remarked that you were really bold in taking a stance in this, US-China trade tension. And that's a very sharp analysis that you did for us.
Yep. There are a lot of more things I would like to share with you. Maybe we fast forward a little bit, Mike, next. So I make this previous one, please. Mike, can you go back? Yep. So this is actually the actual wall. It's not a wallpaper or something, but it's actually the actual wall in our building in Aemulus. I told you that it's a green building. So for the Chinese New Year celebration, so they put up all this decoration, and I felt that's very artistic and very in trend for our topic. So I put it up as the background. And the Chinese words, I mean, many of you could read this. It simply means that 中国制造2025, it's made in China 2025. So what I'm going to open up a new sort of a chapter, like our talk today, that try to get you some news that you don't read from the paper, because our papers are all Western inclined. You don't get many news from China, so I'm going to share a little bit with you. Next. So here, it's actually an article from The Economist. They call it as a new kind of Cold War. All right, it says that a new kind of Cold War between American and this eagle represent US, right? And the eyes in the eagle actually is a flag of China. So the Economist is actually one of the most neutral. I mean, I subscribe, and I'm not making any advertisement, right? So, but Economist is actually one of the very neutral publications that I actually subscribe to, and I think that it's giving a very good insights of what's going on. And look at the right. South China Morning Post. Sooner or later, the trade war will be over, but I think the semiconductor Cold War has just started. I mean, I was interviewed by South China Morning Post early last year. And I actually make that statement that I told them that, I call that as a semiconductor Cold War, and it has just started, and it's actually the intensity has just gotten more and more. Don't be fooled by Biden, coming in and everything is going to be okay. No, it's getting worse. All right, it's getting worse, and I'm going to share with you a bit more about this. By the way, what I mentioned to you that the semiconductor Cold War has started, and it's actually very important for us to understand in this ATE market, because the world is not going to be divided to two. The world is going to go on its own in two different ways. I'll share with you later on more. Next. So Mike, this stop there. We need to do some sort of drama. So when I ask you to click, only you click. If I don't ask you, don't click. So I'm going to share with you that I call this as the next climate change, right? But this climate change is really nothing to do with what's going on with US, Canada right now, whereby temperature shoot up very high. But you can see that the worldwide in June 2020, you look at the 5G network launch. You may not be able to see it clearly, but let me read to you. All right. You see that Europe only have 1 million subscribers to 5G network. Australia 1 million. Saudi Arabia 1 million. And then the North American is less than 5 million. But then China, it's 75 million. All right, I repeat, 75 million. So if I combine Europe, Saudi Arabia, Australia, and North Americans, we have actually less than 10 million of subscribers to 5G. And the 5G in China is already hitting 75 million. So we know that the market is there. The market is there. Click once, Mike. So this is a very interesting thing that I repeated this a couple of times for the sake of all of you. And I want to share with you that since I mentioned that 75 million subscribers already have subscribed to 5G, then does that mean that the market is actually concentrated? The answer is totally no. In fact, if you look like at Reuters, right? Reuters right here. What, we always talk about the Middle East, it's always having a lot of wars, and battles here and there. You have all the proxy wars between American, Russian, and whatsoever. But the main reason is because of oil. And China imports 190 billion US dollar worth of oil on a yearly basis. 190 billion, 190 billion. But you look at this number, China actually imports 300 billion, right? It's 50% more, 300 billions of chips for 3 straight years here. So which means that they actually import about 90% of the chips needed in the country. It's all imports. And I shared with you previously that the trade war is actually choking China. And yet you look at China is importing 300 billions of chips, and which constitute to about probably 90% of the chip consumption that they need in the entire China. So, and the thing about Made in China 2025, this is a term that's being used and being expedited by by Xi Jinping, that they wanted to replace at least 70% of these 300 billion chips with with Made in China chips. All right, so 70% of 300 is 210 billion US dollar. And do you know that to make 1 billion chips from scratch, like in China, typically you need 4 more times of resources or spending that to put into it, from foundries all the way to assembly, to testers, equipments, all the way to factories. These are all things that you need to spend in order to actually make 1 billion of chips. So in other words, 210 billion US dollar has to be replaced by 2025, which means that they need to pour in at least 200 billion of investment into China in the next 4 years. I mean, now it's 2021. 2025 is 4 years down the road. And it's a huge amount and the single largest amount investment under the sun. All right, or maybe I would say on earth. Next. And then, again, South China Morning Post mentioned that China semiconductor. Can you hear me?
No,
Someone
actually,
that
the mic is working. Yeah, the audio is working. Okay. Yeah, the audio is working. Right, carry on.
Okay, sure. China semiconductor Beijing to waive taxes on imported materials parts until 2030 in a boost to self-reliance drive. Remember, this is not the driver's drive, not driving a car, but the push to be self-reliant. Exactly what I told you, Made in China 2025. Remember that? So this is actually the term that if you search on the web, you could get a lot of articles that talk about Made in China 2025. Okay, third one. So here is actually an article that I am only making a circle of the 70%. Like I mentioned, I told you that by 2025, 70% of the critical ingredients has to be made in China. All right. So let's look back at what I mentioned to you previously. Remember that the testers, RF filters, 5G testers. So who are the key players there right now? Number one, when it comes to 5G testers, the first player is National Instrument, US. Number two, it's LTX Credence, US. And number three, we talk about this company called Advantest, Japanese. So if you look back to these particular article that I mentioned, 70%, isn't it that we are talking about making 70% of the products in China to be localized, which means that the Teslas by 2025, at least 70% of the Teslas has to be made in China Teslas. All right. And if you catch what I mentioned previously, which is what we believe and what we think, that Aemulus is a Malaysian country of origin, Malaysia. But TMSS, country of origin, China. Aemulus only have 40% in the company, 60% belongs to our counterpart. That makes it a made in China local company. And this is actually very important because RF, since day one, by nature, it's something that, China could build rockets, everyone could build satellites, but you realize that why is that there's no test, a RF testers in China, as in most of the ingredients are actually being designed by the company itself. So that basically explained to you that because of the difficulties of it, but doesn't mean that they couldn't do it. But with TMSS, we are one step ahead of everyone because it's already a local Chinese company. And you could see that from what Mike shared with you previously, the contribution of almost close to 300,000% of growth from a year ago in terms of the China contribution of revenue to the company. That tells you a little bit about why is this so important and where we are now, because we have already 1 foot into China. Next one. And here, statistics tells you that VC, right? VCs are venture capitalists. Venture capitalist investment into Chinese IC firms tripled in 2020, tripled 3 times. And you can see that how much money has been poured into China in terms in the chip design. So that jives back to what I mentioned to you about in Reuters that says about China to import 300 billions of chips, and they need to actually localize 70% of it, which is 210 billion by 2025. Remember that? So this is a statistics that explain to you what I just mentioned to you. And all in all, Mike, can you just click once? So the question is not sure if you all want to look at Wild West versus Far East. Do you agree with this? Do you think that Shane? Do you think that this is actually a fight between the West and the East?
Yeah, definitely. I think over the past few years, we've seen that I think the essence of the U.S.-China trade war is essentially the tech war. Okay, I think which both countries are racing to see who win the race of 5G.
Okay, but the answer is not. Right? The answer is click once, Mike. It's actually China versus rest of the world.
Oh, okay.
So you may not. I mean, of course, that I mean, there are many news that you don't. I mean, we all may not know, but something very close to us is that. Do you remember that the China's surveillance plane flew close to Sarawak, and we sent off probably one of our very few flyable planes. The Hawk planes to intercept. You remember that? That was just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely.
And China, this is only like probably the first time that it's actually happening to us. But if you look at Taiwan, they do it like a few thousand times in a year. Okay, and they do the same thing to Japan, to South Korea. I'm not saying that I'm not taking a stand. I'm not taking a stance. But then if you read certain things, certain news, if you those things are usually so like for example, Australia, India, Japan, US, and I think someone else is actually making an alliance, military alliance to go against China. To go against China. So does China really care? Obviously, they don't. I mean, right now, the most important part that they need to actually fulfill is that China's market is huge enough that they believe, and what they wanted to do is to do replacement of US made chip replacement of European-made chip, replacement of maybe, US-made testers. I'm just using the word maybe. So we see all this opportunity, and I think that Aemulus right now, it's is making a bet. Well, I say this because of this event, because this event is all about China. But if you look at our actual revenue, we are sort of like 50-50, and I can actually let you know that we are not letting go rest of the world's market. We are not. In fact, we have more salesperson for the rest of the world than China. And we are making quite good progress as well. In fact, rest of the world's market is actually growing as well. So just for the sake of everyone, take it as some knowledge, some learning, things from this conversation, that China is basically, one of the largest market right now.
Okay. I think just now you have talked quite extensively about Made in China 2025 master plan. I think we learned a great deal from your sharing. So now, considering that you are one of the Aemulus is one of the semiconductor players that will help China in their development of the semiconductor industry. Will you be afraid that you will gonna sanction by the US, like the sourcing components,
Don't you see that I'm sweating right now? I'm just joking. We are very careful. To be honest with you, we are very careful. In fact, we segregate our resources into two different parts. Again, it's China versus rest of the world. So even in our reporting, usually, for our investors sharing, we talk about China and rest of the world. All right, for the reporting announcement compliance, we need to talk about all the POs coming from origin of the country. But then generally, we are only looking at China and rest of the world. So which means that we think that rest of the world is still continue to be a very important market. In fact, what actually I wanted to share with you is that, remember I mentioned to you about the Cold War. So here what I would like to share with you is that, okay, I got to bring in, some of you may already knew that I just had an interview in a podcast that was released a couple of days ago. So in that, it's in Chinese language. In that particular podcast, I mentioned one of the theory that I believe is that the semiconductor industry going forward, all right, the semiconductor industry going forward is not going to be divided into two, as in 0.5 and 0.5. In fact, it's going to become 1 + 1. So it's going to be 2. So which means that the semiconductor in the next 10 years, we are seeing the demand could actually stagnate, but we think that the entire value in this industry will double. And you may ask why? Because you must understand that when China started to design a particular chip, they are starting from scratch, which means that it would take years, 1 year, 2 years, for them to make mistakes and learn from it and design and improve the design before they could get something that's as good as the as the rest of the world design. So during this process, they will actually continue to research, continue to pour in money, and continue to actually produce as much as they could, because they are duplicating what the others are doing. I'm not saying copying, I'm talking about duplicating. At the same time, the non-American, the non-China companies who have investment in China, they are pulling out and they are setting up factories in Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, India, and even Europe, Europe and America itself. So when you see that, they are also duplicating what China is doing today. So in other words, is that everyone is learning to do something that they didn't have. The world is no longer flat, number one. And number two is that the world is no longer efficient. This has been actually endorsed by one of the article by The Economist again. He mentioned that the world is no longer going for efficiency. Remember that the Suez Canal that we had the Japanese cargo ship that is actually being blocking the entire Suez Canal, and Europeans they are running out of toilet paper, if you know about this, because they were at least 500 ships that were not able to actually pass by to get through the Suez Canal because of that one ship. So because the entire world has been making it very efficient, as in things may be made, designed in US, made in China, assembled in somewhere else, tested in somewhere else. We make things very efficient in the past, but no longer. This is no longer happening in today's semiconductor world. So that's why you see that APEs, not just us, not just Aemulus, we have very great company like Vitrox, Raytech, Pentamaster, you name all of them. You see everyone's doing very well because the market is 1 becomes 2. It's no longer 1 becomes 0.5 plus 0.5. So this is the right industry to invest in. Just my personal view. Okay, no recommendation, disclaimer, no recommendation to buy or sell. Okay, so that's what I want to share with you.
Yeah. And then I think Mr. Ng, just now you mentioned that this is a blue ocean to Aemulus, right? And then when it means by blue ocean, it means that there will be a very little competitor in this area. So
Exactly.
what is your Aemulus strategy to get into this Chinese key supply chain? And how are you going to be favored from the existing Chinese own local suppliers?
Good question, Shane. The answer is next slide. So we go back to previous one. Mike. Yep. So you can see that we set up this company, TMSS. There's a cheetah. It's continue with what Aemulus is having right now. We always pick cheetah because cheetah is the fastest animal and the most accurate animal in the world. So we have 40%. Tangren Zhizao has 60%. Next one, Mike. Okay, this is our technology roadmap, but I'm not going to go through the jargons with you. I guess you won't be able to understand this, but click once. And what we do here is that 7600, remember Amoeba 7600 is actually our 5G RF testers. But a little bit of things I need to let you know is that even though we mentioned that this is designed, the country of origin is Malaysia, is designed by Aemulus, but then inside it has actually a 20% of American ingredients. We actually use certain American instruments inside our testers. And the plan is for China alone, the plan is actually to design our own instruments to replace it, and it will become a made in Malaysia. Then by then, we will have a total made in Malaysia kind of products, and that will actually sort of removing the hurdles and the barrier, as in the China, maybe they prefer the made in China products. Next click. So 7600 is for 5G RF, and 7300 is actually our RF filter tester. And by now it's already our Q3. So sorry, this is actually the calendar year Q3. Yeah? July, yes. So we are going to launch the first product, this product for prototypes for our customers to try out in a couple of weeks. These few weeks we're going to launch that. So what I'm trying to say is that, to answer Shane your question, is that one of the roadmap is that we need to make something that belongs to 100% belongs to us, and we need to transfer a certain technology that we have here. And also some of the productions that we do here to China, to TMSS, so that it will become a more, it will actually become a more localized, made in China product. Next one, next slide, please, Mike. So here, nothing new. I'm just sharing with you that the typical R&D cycle. Mike, you can click 3 times. So what we can see here is that we're going to transfer some of the manufacturing into TMSS. Then the second phase, we're going to transfer the NPI activities there, and we're going to do next. We're going to do NPV, which is our the third activities to be transferred to there. So the last slide, I just would like to show someone that. Might we get to the next slide? Oh, okay. Okay, Mike, can you go to just go to the profit, or probably go to the revenue growth bar chart, the pie chart just now. Yep, this one. No, 2 slides before this. Yes. So of course, I want to show you that really an achievement that we have done. Mike, you can make it into presentation mode. So that is all I would like to share. That's all I'd like to share. So Shane, maybe you can actually put up some questions.
No problem. So if any questions to ask Mr. Sang Beng, you may write in the Q&A box, not the chat box, so that we can easily manage your question. All right, right in the Q&A box. And for our friends here who are tuning in from YouTube, you may write your questions in the live chat. And remember, write in full sentences so that we can understand what you want to ask. Okay, so let me go through some of the questions. Now I see that there are actually quite a number of questions asking about your competitors. I think in Malaysia, there are many ATA suppliers like what you have mentioned just now. We have Penta, Vitrox, Me, Technovation, and Elsoft, and a lot of AT suppliers. So are they your competitors? I mean, do you supply to the same customer? Are they also making inroad into China?
All of us are in the same industry, in the same market, but we are selling different things. Basically, we don't really clash with each other. It's very minimum. Very minimum. Each of us have a very different expertise. It's the same AT industry, but probably in terms of testing, chip testings, then I think we will be the only one that has the longest history.
Okay, let me pick the next question. Now, just now you mentioned that your patents, your products in China. Why only patent in China? That's asked by Evelyn.
Yeah, basically, the reason that we patent in China because we believe that it will have the most value if it is being patented in China. This is number one. Number two is that I think that to patent in every country, it's going to be extremely expensive. It's going to be extremely expensive. So these are the two main reasons. Now we only focus in China. Our plan is to have between 10 to 20 patents in 2 years' time to be filed in China.
Okay. Daniel would like to ask, do you mind enlightening us on how your revenue recognized? Is it upon shipment or installation? And then the second question is from him is that as we know, the sales of the machine is one time off. That means, one time purchase. So hence, are there any recurring revenue?
Okay. All right. Answer the question A is that it's upon shipment. All right. We can only recognize upon shipment. Installation and to make it work is not that critical in our system because anything that we ship is already being tested to work. So that's the answer to question A. For B, the semiconductor industry is growing. We are just like everyone else in the AT market that we keep selling. It's not really a one-time off thing. The demand is actually growing, like I mentioned to you. The demand is growing, and with the one becomes 1 + 1 would even drive more things. So you may ask the questions of for RF testers, right? The number of phones being sold worldwide actually dropped. Right, actually drop. But don't panic yet. Don't panic yet. The actual number of phones actually dropped worldwide. But the thing is that the complexity of the phones has increased tremendously. Give you an idea. That's a particular PA, particular components. I don't have the exact numbers, but if you remember the Nokia 33 something, phones that we had like 10, 15 years ago, it only has like less than 5% of what the number of components you have today in today's phone. And when you shift from 3G to 4G, 4G to LTE, LTE to 5G, 5G to millimeter wave, the number of chips just keep on increasing, because when you get a 5G phone, it needs to support 4G, it needs to support 3G and 2G. So, it's like the more and more components that appears in a phone, it gets more and more complicated, which means that you keep on needing more and more testers to cover the number of components, because you need to maintain the capacity or the output of the number of phones. So in the past, one phone, a single phone, you may only test 5 chips or 5 components. But today, a single phone, you may need to test 500 components. That is why the testers, needs will continue to rise, because 5G won't stop there. Now we have Wi-Fi. Most of us, we say that, yeah, my Wi-Fi is already working. Why do we need a new chip? Because the Wi-Fi that we had used to be, the standard says 802.11, G, N, and then AC, and then now you have AX. It's a very different standards that is coming up. So every phone is launching a new chip, but with the new chips, it's still got to cover and to support the other standards as well. So that is why the reason of more and more testers are being needed.
Okay. Now you mentioned, I think you mentioned about the purchase, whether it's on or recurring revenues manner. So since you also supply to China and also the rest of the world, right? So are these contracts done in the US dollar or other currency?
Okay, good question. We are now operating based on 3 currency, mainly based on 3 currency. China, we deal direct using RMB, direct, right? So right now, that we could actually trade directly with ringgit and renminbi. With rest of the world, we either use, in Malaysia, we use ringgit, and the other part of the world, we use US dollar.
Okay. So it's ringgit, renminbi, and US dollar lah.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Ng, can you share your view of the risk related to Aemulus competitors in China? Now, leveraging on trade war can also give birth to more Chinese-based 5G ATE companies like Aemulus. So how do you see the effectiveness of patent in China to protect Aemulus intellectual property? So that question comes from Jason Lim.
Hi, Jason. This is actually a common question that we've been asking ourselves since year 1, 17 years ago. The only way, to be honest with everyone, to have patents, partly is to protect the design, but at the same time, it's actually to show someone that the technology that we have. But in China, I would say that right now, we cannot stop competitors. There's no way to stop competitors. And the only way to actually to be able to survive in this competition, having that we already have the foothold, we already have an advantage as compared to our competitors. What we need to do is always to be gearing and to design something that's always ahead of the competitors. When they get something out, and they get something up, they will be most likely like a 2 or 3 generation behind what we have today. So this is the only way that we always get into competition. We always shows that because output is everything, cost is everything in China, which means that whoever could give better performance, they would actually buy those particular testers. So as long as we are able to keep ahead of the competitors 2 or 3 generation of them from them, then we will always have this advantage that when it comes to competition, we will have those winning trades.
Okay, I see. So the next question is, I think also many people are aware that the global semiconductor industry has experienced a shortage of chips. So how does that impact your business?
Okay, part shortage is an issue, all right? I must say that it's an issue. But before I get everyone started to have different thoughts, is manageable. It's manageable. The part shortage, in fact, we have started in October last year, and along the way, we have already identified quite a number of long lead time parts. And we have, I must say that we made the right choice to actually invest in those long lead time parts, and will be able to actually sustain sustain the revenue target that we wanted to be, the revenue and profit target that we wanted to be. So, but at the same time, we do see right now, that there is actually a very serious wafer shortage in China and rest of the world. But they come at a different time, right? They come at a different time. So the good thing about when it comes at different time is that Aemulus right now operating in China and rest of the world. So we are doing our best to actually to actually maneuver ourselves so that when one of it is actually having a part shortage, we have another one that's actually covering up the revenues and profitability. So this will continue to happen, not just happening to us, but it's happening to everyone, everyone under semiconductor. At this point of time, it still doesn't, I would only say that it's actually manageable, all right? It's affecting us, yes, but then it's manageable under our control.
Okay. So the next question is come from YouTube by Jiashan. All right. So I think just now you have talked at length about how your company penetrates into the Chinese market, and we also learned that you also undertook a private placement to fill up your war chest to penetrate the Chinese market. So how big will you see the Chinese contributions to your company's bottom line in the future?
The contribution of, again?
Say sales.
Sales, okay, I've just shared this. Mike, can you go to next slide? So I can only speak on behalf of, speak for the past 2 quarters. Yes. So just to guide you on this particular chart, left one is actually Q2 last year. All right, Q2 last year and March last year. Contribution from China is very small. It's negligible, very small. And then we fast forward to Q1 2021, which is December quarter, December 2020. The contribution is actually 3.7 million over 11.5. So, and then last quarter, Q2, you see that it gets to 8.3 million over the 15.9. So Shane, that gives you an idea of, but I need to actually, let everyone knows that, like I mentioned, the part shortage actually happens, sometimes it happens in China, sometimes it's actually happening in rest of the world. And like I said, the world has been not divided, but the world has actually split into 1 plus 1. So this number will continue to, sometimes it has more, sometimes it has less, but we think that the China contribution to revenue going forward is going to it's going to hover around between maybe 40 to 60%. That's what we are expecting.
Okay. Next question comes from Kun Lee. Okay. Does Aemulus supply your equipment to local OSAT companies such as Inari, Unisem, and MPI?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so they are also your customer, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me pick the next question. Okay, now do you have any plan to move the company to the main market?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's always in our plan. But we take it easy in the sense that we 随缘, so we focus on delivering revenue, we focus on delivering profit. We work on the thing that's right in front of us. When it comes, right? When the time is right, we do it.
Okay. Lim White would like to ask, is there any product life expectancy for your testers?
Oh, good question. Yeah. That will be kind of like a 30 to 50% of upgrades every 3 to 5 years. I repeat, there'll be like a 30 to 50% of the parts of the tester will need to be upgraded every 3 to 5 years. So for example, you go from 4G to 5G, right? Then you need an upgrade or a totally different models of tester. And from 5G to maybe 5.5 or 6G, you need a different type of tester. So that's how it works.
So like every 3 to 5 years, they got to buy a new machine from you, lah.
Exactly.
All right. I think as technology become more complex, right, or faster growth, right, I think maybe like how you change phone or the frequency of how you change phone.
It's quite true,
Okay.
actually. Yeah.
Okay. Gan Wei would like to ask, like, what is the biggest challenge facing Aemulus right now?
Okay, I'm not sure if this guy is our former employee, lah, but if he is, hello, you know. So what's that? The biggest challenge?
Yeah, facing your company right now.
I think that again, I got to just refer back to the podcast that the interview that I had a couple of days ago. I think the biggest challenge is actually for us. Yeah, it's actually the succession plan, right? The succession plan. Succession plan in a sense that it doesn't mean that I'm actually retiring or anything, but it's actually what we have been doing, delivering very good results, changing our strategy, making very good progress, is because that for the past 1 year, when we will have the MCO 1.0 that I was being locked there, also the only thing is that two things that I pick up. Number one is that I started to do jogging, I started to jog and run, highest distance was 12 kilometers. So the second thing that I learned was that I realized that we didn't have the middle level management. We didn't train managers that's good enough to actually take on that particular role. So since then, we were actually in a very heavy investment in manager roles. I just want to repeat a bit that here we actually in Aemulus we look at new bloods, or we look at our existing employees that are around between 35 to 40 years old. We call that as the golden age, whereby these are the managers that I handpick, and then I wanted to actually grow them and actually share with them my thinking process, my thoughts in terms of everything, right? Management. Like recently, the recent ones actually I'm actually guiding some of the managers about delegation of jobs. Delegation is not just a pure delegation. So to be honest with you, that the actual challenges, right? I mean, I can tell you 1,001 challenges in the market, external, internal, and things like that. But I believe that all these are manageable. All these are manageable. But the most difficult part is actually human, right? So a lot of time right now that I started to realize that I need to train managers, and I cannot just promote them to be a manager, and as in that, all right, you're on your own, you do what you think is right. But the coaching, it's actually very important. And the biggest challenge is actually in coaching.
Okay, I see. It's more on succession planning and also the team development.
Yeah.
Human resource development. All right. The next question coming from Chi Pure, Chi Pure, if I pronounce your name correctly. Now, we know that one of the segments that Aemulus supply to is the automotive segment. So the question here is, how large revenue do you think that the electric vehicle industry will contribute to you in the future? As we know, the EV industry is growing very big right now.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I don't want to trigger my competitors, but then okay. So we are now in automotive. Automotive, we are in the LEDs, and these LEDs are the headlamps LEDs, and also the in-cabin LEDs used in the ambient lightings, which basically, as you know, DNO is working on. So this ambient lighting is actually a new thing, and it's actually growing. Most of the luxurious cars today has inside the cabin they have at least like 1,000 LEDs, right? 1,000 LEDs to actually create the ambient lightings for you. Because why? This is actually to gear towards the automotive vehicles, not just EV, but automotive vehicles. Sorry, not automotive, it's autonomous vehicle, all right? Because when you are not driving, you are just sitting in a car, and the car needs to create certain moods for you. For example, if you're driving from Penang to KL or KL to Penang, of course not now, but that 3 hours, if it is on a autonomous mode, what happens is that you want to get to sleep, so the car can get into the ambient lightings that make you sleep. But then if it needs to make emergency stop, right, there's something alert, so you got to make up, you change the ambient lighting to bright white so that to wake you up. So these are all the things that the ambient lighting has started to actually come into our vehicles. So the second part that we are researching, all right, I must use the word researching as in whether this is something that we want to do, is to do with automotive vehicles. Here, I really don't want to share anything yet because we don't have anything concrete as of now. But yes, the plan is there.
Okay, excellent. Now, I also read your annual report in depth and also watch your recent podcast with the BFM in the Chinese language. And then, you mentioned that the company was transforming from providing a generic tester to a more unique tester that can cater to a better margin and a wider market, a niche market in the Chinese market, right? So so the question here is, what makes your product unique? And then are continued R&D expertise a priority to your company?
Okay, the first thing that we need to look at is that Aemulus has, okay, should I say that? Aemulus has a lot of very heavy human assets. Heavy in the sense that we have a large team, all right? So don't come and pinch our guys. I mean, so we have a large team of very brilliant people. And the things that we are doing here is in fact very, very unique, right? Very, very unique in terms of the design, the things that we are doing. So what actually makes us special is that, number one, I mean, I shared before, is that comparing worldwide, Malaysia is relatively cheap. Malaysia is relatively cheap. All right, despite that we pay very well to our R&D guys, our people, it's still relatively cheap compared to the rest of the world. I mean, by living standard. But if you, the second thing that we have is really that there's this one thing that we have. Number one, we have been working since about probably 13, 14 years ago in RF business. We have been actually working with Broadcom when they were just called Avago, when they split from Agilent into Keysight and Avago. We were the very, very first players who actually participated with them and growing together with them since the iPhone 3GS time. So when we had this customer, and we also had Skyworks in the US as our sort of two largest, these are the two largest customers that we had. And these two customers are also happen to be the world largest suppliers, not before China stood up, right? They were actually the two largest suppliers when it comes to this radio frequency chips design. So they are the two largest, and we are actually participating in the tester business. So we were not alone, of course, in terms of testers. We have competitors like I named you before, American and Japanese. But then today, the right time, the right place, China came out and wanted to actually started to get away from, to remove US ingredients as much as possible. That gave us this opportunity to come in as a made in Malaysia or made in China kind of product. So these are the advantages that we had.
Okay, I see that. Thanks for the explanation. Let's zoom into your number for a bit. There's a question from YouTube asked by Zafiro Hakim. Now, your revenue has grown for 5 quarters and cost cutting that has been implemented. Could you comment on why your operating cash flow has been negative this whole time in Q1, Q2, and worse than Q3 and Q4 last year?
Oh, it's a simple reason, right? It goes back to the reason why we wanted to raise funds, right? We raised 30 million ringgit exactly a year ago. I mean, almost a year ago. because we realized that partly again, if you read the article Out of the Dark from written by Jennifer Jacobs in The Age, this particular article, you can still search on the web. It actually explained to you why we did badly before 2020. That couple of years that we did pretty not well. But then before we got listed, we had a average CAGR of 60 to 70% for over a period of 11 years. But why is that? After listed, we got wrong and we did something, we were not doing the right thing, because we actually invested in, put a lot of money in something that we shouldn't have done, right? I explained that in the podcast. So what we did was that since last year, we focused on three market that we thought that this will be the future of the market, future of Aemulus. Number one, the 5G RF market. Number two, the RF filter market. Number three, the CIS market. So we believe that these three are the markets that we should actually invest in. And how do we invest? We put in R&D, we increase the entry barrier for anyone else to come in. We invest in the R&D, we invest in a lot of things in software, and these are all needing very heavy investment. And that is the reason why you are seeing the negative cash flow, negative operating cash flow. But things should be able to change in the near future.
Okay, excellent. Now we also learned that the Taiwanese market is quite huge for semiconductor. So do you currently serve the Taiwanese peers like TSMC?
No, indirect. Actually, I'm not sure if it is TSMC, but we don't sell direct to TSMC as of now. But Taiwan is a market that is coming up and growing at this point of time.
All right. So could you also comment on why there's a 30% increase in your long-term borrowing and also double in the short-term borrowing for the recent quarter compared to the previous quarter?
Okay, luckily I got Mike.
Oh, basically, because as you know that the chip shortage in global markets, one of the reasons that we pile out our inventories, so we have some purchase, quite a bulk of purchase coming in for the storage in to avoid the disruption of our operations. One of the reasons that we purchase and we finance through BA and RC. Yeah, that's the reason why you can see that the OD is increased and the BA is increased.
And also about the building, isn't it? The land and the building, the loans that we are getting for the buildings and the loan. Right?
Yeah, that one is, yeah, true. Yeah.
That's our long-term borrowing. It's actually basically the buildings and the land.
The short-term one is mostly is the trade line facilities that we obtain.
Yeah.
Okay. We have really running out of time. We are really running out of time right now. I think we're way overshoot the intended time to end at 9:45. But there are still about 90 over questions on my panel. So I guess that will conclude the Q&A session today. Mr. Ng, do you have anything else to share with us before we conclude the session?
Okay, I really appreciate that you all participate, and the way that I structured all this delivery of messages and explanation of Aemulus is over a number of interviews and publications. All right. So thanks to Kentrade for inviting me. There will be a few more that's coming up, and you realize that I only talk about RF and China in today's session. So what it means is that we are expecting something different from this one in the near future. So stay tuned and watch out our LinkedIn and also our Facebook to see what are the things that I'll be there to explain again of what's going to happen.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Ng, for coming to a Kentrade corporate session, live chat with Aemulus Holdings Bhd, fielding war chest to penetrate the Chinese market. So that will conclude our question and answer sessions. But of course, Kentrade has more for you, for all our clients and also our retail investors. All right, for the next session, which is happening on next Tuesday, we have a live chat with Hibiscus Petroleum Bhd, a 10-year growth story. So I've given you the registration link in the chat box and also in the YouTube live chat. You may scroll to find it. Find the registration link to join on the session with Hibiscus happening on 6th of July. Is a Tuesday. So as you know, Hibiscus recently got some interesting acquisition that will probably boost their sales. So in the next session, we have invited the group managing director to come and share with you on this topic. Okay, so it is Mr. Kenneth Gerard Pereira. All right, so it's happening next Tuesday. You may register for it. So after Hibiscus, we've got Pi Industrial Berhad. We got the CEO Alvin Mui, Mr. Alvin Mui, and after Pi Industrial Berhad, that will be a plastic packaging company, which is SCGM, to talk about the sustainable business practices going forward. We have got the executive chairman, Dr. Sri Lee Hock Sing, to come to our show on the 22nd of July. So you may mark down your calendar for these dates if you want to join this session. All right. So for those of you who have not had a Kenanga share trading account, yes, you may put in your interest in www.cantrade.com/open-account-form. Once you put in your interest, then Kenanga will arrange a friendly dealer representative to cater to your interest to open a stock trading account with Kenanga. All right. Last but not least, thank you everybody for joining this session, and thank Mr. Ng for coming to this session. Thanks Mike for sharing with us the numbers. So we wish Aemulus very well success into capturing the Chinese market. Okay, in the next few years. All right. So thank everybody for joining this session, and may all have a pleasant rest of the day. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, Mr. Ng.